Hello there, welcome to the first video from the Baz Cave. It's not really a cave, it's just a corner of the living room where I've been allowed to put all my shit. As you can see from the title of the video, I'm going to be talking about the Spectrum and the Commodore 64. One of them I know fairly well, being the Spectrum, of course. I'm a die-hard Spectrum fan, as you know. The other being the Commodore 64, which I am of course aware of, but know far less about. From both perspectives, I'm going to be talking as an enthusiast rather than an expert. I'm not going to be coming out with numbers and speeds of things and such like that, because I'm a bit of a technological fuckwit. I don't know any of those things. Other people know these machines inside out, what they can do, what they can't, what their processing power is and stuff like that. That's all beyond me, apart from the basics basically. And also, I'm not working from a script here, so I could go on forever. These videos that I do, I tend to ramble on and on and on. Some of them have lasted up to half an hour. Do apologise in advance. You can see from the bottom right hand corner how far it's going, how long the video is going to be. Now, I've got great escape loading on the +2 here, and I just want to talk about both machines really. The fact that I'm happy to have them both together in my collection, as I intimated on the unboxing video for the C64, which was very kindly sent to me by this man. And he fixes stuff, does our Mark. And he wanted the mug in the video anyway, so there it is, it's famous. Right, so the Spectrum, this is the machine I know and love really well. This is of course the original design of it, 48K and 16K. It was originally released in 1982 by Sinclair Research, so it's now 36 years old. When you bought a Spectrum in the box, it came with the Spectrum itself. Very neat, compact little machine, very iconic design. You got a power lead, you got ear and mic leads to allow you to connect to a tape player of sorts, and you got an aerial lead. You didn't actually get a tape player with it, which was an extra expense that you had to pay out for. Now the good thing about the Spectrum was that any old tape player would do. In fact, one year when we went down to Kent for our summer holidays, we packed the Spectrum away and we forgot the tape recorder, and fortunately my brother was able to use his Walkman for us to load games, so we really didn't have a problem there. And you know, tape machines were in abundance back then. But basically, if you wanted to play games, load games, etc., you really needed to pimp the Specky up, because that's how it came out of the box. You'll see an edge connector there. If you wanted a joystick, you wanted to put, or you needed to put an interface onto it, such as this one that I've got here, which is the RAM Turbo interface, which is kind of like a sort of plus two interface 2 copy, in that you could use this. Something just fell out of there. Oh well, it was minute, whatever it was. You could use the Sinclair cartridges in there as well. I've never actually tried this out yet, so I'm sort of keen to. So that was all extra expense you had to sort of pay out if you wanted to buy a ZX Spectrum, you know. So although it was much cheaper than things on the market, you still had to sort of consider that you've still got to buy these things, or at least have a way of loading a game in, etc., or controlling a game if you didn't want to use keyboard. Now, let's see with the Commodore 64 that Mark sent me. Again, I mean, this is the 64, I believe. This is the 64C, not the original bread bin sort of design, the iconic sort of beige design, case design that was used on the VIC-20, the Commodore 64 and the Commodore 16, but in sort of like varying different colours, etc. This is kind of like an updated version of the case. Both of them went through various design iterations. Now with this, I mentioned, let's just get that going. We'll do, because this game sort of plays itself really, and it's quite fun to watch. So we'll set it up to control Sinclair. There we go, let that just play in the background. Now with the Commodore, you got most everything you needed out of the box. I don't know how much more expensive it was than the Spectrum when it was released, but as you can see, it has 2 joystick ports there already, which allowed you to you know, use whatever joysticks you wanted. Now I think there were some official Commodore joysticks, but I think they may have been a bit crap, and there was plenty of sort of like third-party joysticks, etc. But yeah, again, they're both really, without wanting to drop one or the other, very sort of iconic designs. Look how much bigger the C64 is. The C64 is than the Spectrum. It's quite significantly bigger. And like I say, you got the stuff that you needed in the box. When you wanted to play your games, you had the data set that came with the Commodore data set, with its little tape counter in the corner there. Is that going to focus? Yes, it is. So you literally, in the bundle that you bought when you bought Commodore 64, you got everything you needed to get up and running and play games or do whatever crap that you wanted to do with it. So that was a minor downfall on the part of the Spectrum. And joysticks like the QuickShot 2 would work straight away. You didn't need any interfaces or plugs or anything else. The game just, you just plugged them in and off they went. Now, again, if I'm quoting anything wrong or out of place, I haven't done any research on this. This is just stuff that I'm remembering from memory and going on just a rabbit about. Please correct me if I'm wrong on anything. Now, of course, a lot of that was, you know, Amstrad, when they took over Sinclair, went to a lot of steps to fix a lot of that. But they didn't fix them entirely when they released the Plus 2, and there are some strange things sort of missing from the Plus 2, if you know what I mean, and I can't really work out why. If anyone's aware of the particular reasons why, then please tell me. Now, the Plus 2 gave us a tape deck on the side, so we no longer had to mess around with volume control or anything like that, or source a player. It was there, it was built in. Now, what's missing from this is a tape counter. There isn't one at all. Now, a lot of people back in the day used to buy magazine cover tapes, compilations, etc., where if you had a normal cassette player with a tape counter on it, such as the Commodore dataset has, you could work out where a particular game was on a tape, and you could just make a note of it somewhere. Say, right, okay, yeah, at 83 is Jet Set Willy or Attic Attack or whatever, and you could just go to where you wanted to in the game. With this, you can't do that because, you know, it's not got a tape counter. You kind of have to guess where each game is, or, you know, perhaps make a little mark on the actual cover of the label on the cassette in order to do it, which is really, really bizarre. Bearing in mind this is made by Amstrad, who also made the CPC 464. Now, I believe, again, correct me if I'm wrong, the 464 had a tape counter on its tape deck. So why hasn't the Plus 2, or any of the Plus 2 iterations, the 2A, the 2B? And then they went some way to solving the joystick problem by putting joystick ports on there, but they made it for some reason that you could only play using official Sinclair joysticks, the SJS ones. Now, they were abysmal joysticks. I did have one back in the day, but you couldn't unless you put an interface. I'm not sure if the joystick interfaces work on the grey Plus 2. But it was really, really sort of a bizarre choice. So if you wanted to play a game on the Plus 2 with a joystick, you either had to use the SJS one or whack an interface on, or use something like this, the Cheetah 125 Plus. Now, this is the same joystick I had when I got that Spectrum Plus 2 that I've shown you for Christmas 1986. And you'll see it has two 9-pin adapters there. The grey one is the one that goes into the Plus 2 and allows you to use the joystick on that, and that one is the normal one that would go in a, you know, like in a normal joystick interface. So really, really bizarre choices there. I'm not really sure why they were made. Again, if people know, please let me know. Now, both systems are fantastic. They both have their strengths, both have their weaknesses. I can't talk too much about the Commodore 64 because I don't know an awful lot about it other than playing on friends' ones at the, you know, when I used to go around their houses when I was younger, etc. But this is the first time I've ever owned one. And I'm quite happy to, because there are some fantastic games on it. I'm particularly looking forward to, when I can, finding a copy of Way of the Exploding Fist, because that game was fantastic. Me and my mate Lee, we used to play that game forever. Fantastic music, fantastic sound effects, fantastic game all around. The Spectrum version of Way of the Exploding Fist is fantastic too, but it's minus the music, the sound. It's just spot effects. It's minus the bonus round with the ball, where you got to knock the bull out or jump over it or whatever it is you got to do. I can't remember. Similarly, games like IK Plus, again, the Spectrum version is fantastic. But it misses some of those extra bells and whistles the Commodore's got. Now, obviously, colour was a thing that always came into conversations and arguments in the playground, etc. But over later years, the Spectrum got over its kind of colour issues. People became clever and cute and worked out some ways to make some incredibly colourful games, which we all know, especially nowadays. Some of the homebrew games look absolutely fantastic. I've covered a lot of them on my channel, so have various other YouTubers, etc. So by all means, go and check out the Specky homebrew scene. Now, I don't know what the Commodore homebrew scene is like. I'm assuming there is one. If there is one, I'm going to be intrigued to check some of those games out. There are going to be a lot of comparison videos on both this channel and the H2O channel about both machines, you know, comparing games on both of them, because there are going to be examples of a game that is fantastic on the Commodore 64 but utterly dog shit on the Spectrum. Kung Fu Master, we're looking at you, and vice versa. And there are going to be games that are great on both of them, and I'm particularly looking forward to being able to look at examples of those, you know, do comparisons, not to the extent of you know, channels like Chinny Vision, etc., who managed to, you know, he's got lots and lots of hardware, manages to compare versions of different games across all the systems that he owns, which is fantastic. I can only do Commodore 64 and Spectrum. But I also wanted to do it just to make something a little bit different, because much as I love the Spectrum, sometimes it can be a bit of a pain in the backside, especially when doing stuff using tape, etc. The tapes sometimes don't work, you get stuck with, you're frustrated, etc. One example of that is this game, ETX, which I bought. And it was marked as untested, so you know, I was expecting that there was a possibility that I might struggle with getting it to load, and I got that game because I saw Larry Bundy Jr. did a video of it last year. It's a sort of like port stroke rip-off of the Atari 2600 game ET, you know, regarded as one of the worst games in ever, and I'm sure it isn't, because I've played some absolutely crap games that appear to be far worse than ET ever is or was. But yeah, sometimes you struggle with tapes, loading, etc., and it can be a bind, especially if you want to do unemulated gameplay videos on real sort of hardware, real systems, etc. And I've experienced a couple of issues with the Commodore 64. Only one game doesn't load at all, and Mark sent me well over a dozen, so I'm quite sort of happy with that. Everything else loaded more or less first time. So that's one of the sort of problems with doing the Spectrum stuff, is that, you know, the tapes have you know, got twitchy over time, etc. You can sort of like fix it by using MP3 cassette, which I've done a few times, just to keep the sort of the flag flying for playing stuff on real hardware, etc. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what the Commodore 64 is all about. You know, I keep on going on about there was the Playground Wars way back in the day. I remember people taking the piss out of the Spectrum version of Outrun because it was green, but then you look at the Commodore version of Outrun and it was really blocky and everything like that. So it was a back and forth all the time. But as an adult, as a grown man, I can appreciate what both systems have to offer. And I'm really, really going to enjoy getting stuck into looking at both of them, doing comparisons for both of them. Because you should broaden your horizons a bit. If I ever do anything standalone on the C64, it's going to go on the Bazza H2O channel, because this channel is specifically for Spectrum and Spectrum related content. Anything else stands out like a sore thumb on this channel. So I would like, as always, I always try to invite and generate discussion whenever I do a video, etc. I'd like to hear your thoughts on both machines, what you owned, what was your initial experiences of either? If you were a Commodore fan, what was your first experience of the Spectrum, and vice versa. Importantly, what do you think of them today? You know, I think personally, along with the other machines, the Amstrad and the sort of BBC Micro to an extent, and then there were smaller machines that were less successful but still popular, like the Electron, the Oryx, the sort of Dragons, etc. They formed a kind of really, really strong image of what the microcomputer scene was back in those early 80s that I can sort of remember anyway. I can remember seeing all those machines on display in shops, etc. Actually having the choice, that much choice. Nowadays you've only got PlayStation, Nintendo and Xbox really, or PC, but you know, I'm not into PC gaming. I have a PlayStation 4, but I use it now just to watch Netflix or YouTube on. I get right hacked off with bloody updates and installs and whatnot. But hey ho, anyway, I've rabbited on for a really, really long time there. I don't know how long it's gone on for. Please, if I've got anything wrong in any of the things that I've said, please correct me in the description box below. If you like the video, if you've managed to get this far, please let me know. If you wish to subscribe, please do so, because there will be more of these chats and discussions, etc. Hopefully in the future. Now I've got some things set up where I can actually sort of do them comfortably. But yeah, join in. Please, please, please join in. It's been ever so much fun talking with you and bringing you videos over the last, I think, coming up 4 years now. I've really, really, really enjoyed it. I've really enjoyed the interaction. I've enjoyed the games. I've enjoyed the friendships. I've enjoyed the silliness. I've enjoyed the competition. I've enjoyed everything about it, really, apart from the things that I say that are a bit of a bind, sort of, from a technical point of view. And here I go again. I'm rabbiting and talking bollocks. Thanks ever so much for watching. Take care of yourselves, and goodbye.